we're big Ron Howard fans, and I love Pavarotti, so the girls haven't had a lot of exposure to him, to Pavarotti, so I thought this would be an amazing opportunity to get a real inside look. It's very rare that you can take high art and combine it with accessibility and be successful, and he's one of the greatest examples of all time. I mean, you can't get higher than that artistically, and to be, even if you know nothing about music or nothing about opera, you knew who Luciano Pavarotti was, and that's an amazing thing to see.
Luciano has never really had a film that's done his whole life, covered his whole life, and the nature of his story and the grandness of his story has never really been told before. There have been television films, but not one like this.
Luciano, the greatest voice there was Luciano Pavarotti. Chris Jenkins was our sound designer, and it was incredibly important to get that right. His voice is so passionate, and so we wanted to bring this sound in Atmos to the people the way it was meant to be, and I think we achieved that.
He came from a very poor background. His father was a baker and his mother rolled cigars in Italy, and I think as he rode this ladder up, which is mostly for wealthier people, he had this burning desire to break out of, to disrupt the pattern of opera, performance.
The family contributed so much. We got home movies that no one's ever seen before. We found footage at the very beginning of the film that took us over a year to actually get, which is what's so incredibly special to see Luciano Pavarotti pay homage to his idol at the Caruso at the very beginning of this film. It's magnificent, so it's extremely important.
It's always a mix of emotion, Of course, there is the happiness for this fantastic movie, and I'm so thankful to Ron for that, for having described Luciano in a very truthful way, and being so nice to the family, to everyone, through this journey. And on the other side, there is even the sadness for him that is not with us anymore. So it's a mix of emotion. I always feel with the double sensation. After the movie, I need a glass of wine after that because I'm always full of emotion too much. Well, I don't think he changed much because his purpose was always trying to do his best to honor the talent he received, because he was conscious that he received a talent from God, and he always tried to honor it at his best. So he said, I'm never in competition with others, I'm just in competition with myself because I want always to get the best. So he was never happy. Every time he said, tomorrow I can do better, even until the last days. And the other was to help people in general, so children affected by war because he was a child of a war, children with sickness, but even young students to start a career. So he really tried to do everything until the very end. He taught young singers. The last one was Vittorio Grigolo, that now is a superstar in the opera world, in July, and Luciano passed away in September, to give you an idea how much he really cared about people until the very end. I think the passion he had for everything, the true person he was, he never did something with a different purpose, so it was very clean and clear what he was doing. That's why he was able to accept all the criticism, because he was very sure what he was doing, Especially when he wanted to bring opera to everyone, and he used to sing in stadium, in arena, in park, and mixing with the pop music, the three tenor concerts. For him, it was a way to bring opera where it was in the past, where in the past people were singing opera on the street. So the idea is to bring it back there, and I think he succeeded.
The great thing about being in my position, being in the editing chair, is that I get to look at everything. I get to include what I want to include, or we want to include, but I get to look at everything. I get to enjoy it all. So we get to make some great decisions based on some fantastic footage. And, his life was so complex, and it was so full of everything, from his early days to his final days. There was just an amazing trove of humor and love and, you know, compassion, and also the voice. You know, those are the hardest choices. Which voice, which song, you know, which aria do we use? Which piece do we use for this to express it every moment? And we found the right pieces for each moment in his life to really tell the stories. And we really wanted to try and force an opera into the film, try and create an opera of our own, and that was our goal. So I hope we have achieved something close to that.
Well, he's a household name, and yet people don't know that much about him beyond that voice that they've heard. They've heard it whether they know they've heard it or not, whether they're opera lovers or not. They've heard Pavarotti, and yet, you know, he is a genius. He achieved at the highest level, and his life, it turns out to be kind of operatic in and of itself. It's very, very dramatic, but he was just so charismatic, so engrossing, that I thought it was a great opportunity to sort of, you know, take a look at the whole life and how he lived it. And his family involvement makes this so emotional and so personal and sometimes raw, but ultimately inspiring. It took a long time, and we had, you know, never before seen footage, thanks largely to the family and the estate and their cooperation. You know, I don't think we would have been able to make this kind of in-depth film. People keep saying, wow, I'm surprised it's so emotional. Well, first of all, opera's emotional. I used the lyrics, I put that, you know, in subtitles in the movie so you could understand. There were so many times in his life when he's singing this aria, this song, the execution's unbelievable, the close-ups they made in those days were fantastic, his performance is great, but he's singing about his life. At that particular moment, you know, he's telling his story through opera. When you begin to understand how that can connect, the sound, the feeling you get is pretty transcendent. This is you know, a great time to get to make this movie, because between the digital remastering and everything we could do, every recording trick in the book, to take those tracks and present them in a way that would really just make the hair rise up on your neck. That's why I'm so glad the crowd tonight is seeing it in a movie theater. We have a theatrical release, and it really is meant first and foremost to be seen in a place where you can watch it, but you can also really hear it. So I'm very proud of it in that way. I hope this movie helps continue that agenda of his, which was to democratize it. He didn't see it as an elite art form. He thought of it as something that could be enjoyed by everyone, as it was in the village that he grew up in Italy, post-war World War II Italy. You know, it was a popular form of expression. It's what everyone sang and talked about and understood and felt. And so I hope people can see the movie and understand that to a degree. I would have assumed he was a prodigy. I would have assumed he was one of these artists where you just kind of knew by the age of 12 or 14 or something like that. And you know, that wasn't the case. His father was an amateur tenor, but he was working as an elementary school teacher. And his mother said, you've got to try it. You've got to commit yourself to it. You have something. You do have a gift. And it's a very funny moment in the film, the way he talks to his mother. But let's hear it from Mom. She knew what she was talking about. Still, 6 years later, hard work, training, teachers, all of it. He's yet to come close to being a professional. Finally, he has his breakthrough. So his life, you know, was a struggle. Yet he didn't view it that way. He viewed it as, you know, so optimistically as just a sort of a gift that God had given him his whole life. By the time Pavarotti was reaching out to rock stars, he was doing it for philanthropic reasons, to support causes that he cared about, children trapped in war-torn environments, educational programs, bringing opera to the world. And so I think those rock stars believed in those causes, but also he was probably a bigger star. I mean, there was a period of time where he was a bigger act than Michael Jackson. He was, and then you put him with the two tenors, you know, with Carreras and Domingo, and you know, they were the rock stars. Everybody else was glad to be on stage with Pavarotti.